My name is Alika Maikau, and I'm here with Chris Gordon on Help Laser Biz.
Everyone, I have the honour and the pleasure of the company of Alika Maikau, filmmaker, award-winning filmmaker. So, welcome to Hellblazer with Alika. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So we're here to talk about your latest film short, which we will get onto, but it's obviously qualifying for consideration for the 2021 Academy Awards as well, which is no mean feat. So, well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's surreal.
I know I'm going to get this wrong as well because so forgive me. Is it Moloka'i Bound? Moloka'i Bound?
Good. Yeah, Moloka'i Bound.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. It's Moloka'i, is it? Moloka'i. Cool, excellent. Obviously, so it's based from Hawaiian culture. So I say, please forgive my mispronunciation for Hawaiian words. They're not things I actually come across every day. But it's a fantastic. I love the. I mean, I do love Hawaii, and you've got a very individual culture there, which is it's very long-standing culture. So kind of what drew you to directing movies in the first place? I mean, this isn't your first film. This is one of several that you've done so far, and obviously hopefully see lots more from you. So what kind of drew you to directing?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Hawaii, and I had always sort of wanted to see uh, my culture and the people that I grew up with represented in a way that felt accurate and authentic to me in a way that I haven't really seen portrayed by Hollywood. Um, and larger productions. I mean, Hawaii Five O is filming here. Magnum PI
Mm-hmm.
is doing stuff now, and that's great, but that doesn't really represent the Hawaii that I knew. So that was sort of one of the impetuses for me to try to do this work.
Fantastic. I mean, I was going to say that's one of the I say obviously from my ignorant side over the other side of the UK is Hawaii Five O, something I do know and I've seen, but it does still seem very Americanized rather than the actual
Yeah.
culture. But they do throw bits of the culture in there, which is but it's like you say, it's not proper Hawaii culture.
Americanized is the right word.
Yeah, yeah. Americanized happens quite a lot to quite a lot of things, I think. Sadly, well, I say sadly, but obviously, that's their take on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is great, and obviously, it's really nice to talk to someone who wants to bring out that the culture of the country and the islands as well, because obviously, they are very unique, they're very individual. Uh, to the rest of the United States, they're part of the United States, but although they're completely different, but you have got you seem to have kept much more of the individuality in the culture in Hawaii, and I think that's what attracts people and draws people towards it, which is it's really good.
Yeah, I agree, and we're trying to preserve a lot of the culture that sort of uh, 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 maybe got, I mean, systematically marginalized through, statehood and colonization.
Hmm.
But there's this resurgence, there's this cultural resurgence happening right now, and it's very exciting. There's charter schools where they only speak Native Hawaiian to kids, and so there's a whole generation of kids that are growing up fluent in Hawaiian. So along with reviving these other cultural practices, so it's a very exciting time. Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, I can sympathise with that because I live in Wales, and I know it's a very similar situation. The fact that the Welsh is a very strong, it's hundreds of years. We've got cultures go back hundreds of years, and language and customs and traditions. and they're trying to revive all those and trying to bring them because obviously everyone just thinks of Wales. In America it's like, where do you live? Wales. Oh, is that part of England? No. it's like, it's like no. So yeah, I really understand. That's right. I can understand that, and really respect and value what that whole say revival of culture, and trying to push it out and get everyone to actually understand and appreciate it a lot more as well. So from a little small country over in the UK.
That's cool, and I need to do my do my homework on Welsh culture, because sounds like a lot I need to learn.
Celtish. So yeah, it's okay. Admittedly, I don't actually speak Welsh, which is kind of negates the point I've just made. But my son's learning it, so that's that's what exactly we're trying to do in schools, just like you said you've been doing out there as well. So have you got any inspirations with film work as you're coming up with all the directors and everything there? Are there any ones that stand out to you that you really admire and think, yeah?
I mean, Taika Waititi has been a huge influence on me since, when I was in film school. He actually came to our class, and
Oh wow.
he showed his film Boy in like 2009 or 2010. So, and that was still, before he obviously took this meteoric ascent to everything he's doing now, including Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, to see someone who looked like me, or the people that I grew up with, this Polynesian man, be so successful in what he's doing, but also remaining true to who he is and where he's come from, he's really served as a model in a lot of ways.
Excellent. Yeah, he's just, like you say, he's just shot to right, he's just boosted right up there, hasn't he? So even, I say, the Mandalorian that we were just talking about before I started recording, he's been doing that as well.
Yeah.
So, and he's, like you say, it's great to have that kind of an inspiration and that kind of someone you can look up to and sort of, or aspire, who inspires you. Because I think it's a lovely word. It's like you aspire to inspire.
Yeah.
So that's, it's great, and I say I'm not going to fault him one bit, because he has done some amazing work across the, not just obviously with the Star Wars, like you say, he's been around, he's about built up to get to there, and as everyone does, you build it up, and he's fantastic work, and he's from New Zealand, isn't he, Taiki? Yeah, but Polynesian, so same sort of. Excellent, cool. Is there anyone like you'd love to work with as well? I was going to throw these questions out before we move on to talk about the film itself. Who would you love to work with at the moment out there?
So good. I guess I have to. Probably, Mama, and Mama would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
But also, I think he's I think his family is from the west side of Oahu, the island that I live, and so um, I think there's stories that he might be interested in telling that I'm probably interested in as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. I met him once. I have met him. He came to a Comic Con, Wales Comic Con, a few years back. He's huge. The guy's massive. Yeah, I think it was just as he was announced to play Aquaman, and he'd been doing, obviously, his Carl Drake, is it Drago? I can't never remember the name. Yeah, on Game of Thrones, yeah. But yeah, the guy is massive. He just commanded presence as well. So he's a great actor as well. We know he's fantastic. So
Nice.
especially as if he's homegrown as well, coming from the other side of the where you live, the island where you live as well.
Yeah, and very cool to see his rise as well. Obviously, another meteoric rise.
Yeah. Brilliant, excellent. So okay, so moving on to your new film. You're not. I was going to say, actually, guys, it's not your first film. You've got the fourth one you've directed now. I'll Keep You Float. You've got Mauka to Makai and Morai Kura. Is that Morai Kura?
a great job, actually. They're not easy names to pronounce, so I commend you.
Yeah, so I apologise to anyone when I do get them wrong. So I mean, yes, obviously this is now your fourth film, and like we've already discussed, Hawaiian culture is very, very important to you, and it seems that coming from these films, and obviously especially with the new one, with the language used, some of which we'll get onto as well, and the aspect of it, you are very much trying to highlight proper Hawaiian culture rather than like we say, the Americanized version of it. You're pushing that to the fore, and I think that's what it stems from your movies there. So, how did you come up with the idea for the latest one then?
Um, so this idea germinated on I was attending a film festival last year in New Zealand, actually, in Aotearoa called Maori Land, and I was housed. They put us up in a filmmaker house, and they housed me with this cinematographer Chapin Hall,
Mm-hmm.
um, who I had sort of seen in here and there in Hawaii, but I never had like a a real conversation with him up to the point when we were housed together and we attended the film festival together, and
Mm-hmm.
we were so inspired by the amazing Maori films we were seeing and the indigenous films we were seeing from around the world. And we talked about sort of ad nauseum uh, how to sort of translate the ins- the inspiration and influences we were feeling into a project together when we got back home. And so he was going to be in Hawaii for a week, and he had his camera gear on him, and he said if I could write something by the weekend, then he'll shoot it. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, I took that as sort of a challenge, I guess, to see if something could be done to take advantage of his time. And my roommate Holden Mondriel Santos is the lead actor in our film,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of knew that he would be down to do something very quickly with little preparation. So
Yeah.
I said that's what inspired me to set out and try to write this thing, and we're really grateful for the way it went.
Fantastic. How long did it take to shoot in total? Because obviously the film's just over a little over 8 minutes long, isn't it?
Yeah, it took about 7 hours, maybe.
Okay.
We shot it in the yeah. We again just that was the constraints we had because we only had Chapin for that day and the
Mm-hmm.
actors for that day. We didn't even really rehearse that much up until shooting. So uh, I'm just really grateful that the actors they found something in the material, I think, and they connected with it. And I I didn't have to do much. They did a great job.
Fantastic, and it does come across. I mean, that you say those guys come across on screen. Is very, very. It does portray a very powerful message when you're looking at it. Because I mean, for those who've not seen it yet, I'm not going to spoil it for you. But obviously, you start with you're thinking what's going on here because you've got the guy coming up to a kid sitting outside. It's all in one location as well, which is even I suppose handy for the cinematographer kind of shaping. But but you've got the kid coming up to school and trying to talk to him and saying, yeah, your mum sent me and stuff like that, and you're like, you start thinking, okay, yeah, I kind of know. If you start thinking, immediately thinking, I know where this is going, but it doesn't. Um, and as it goes, and so those the two characters in that scene, because obviously there are only the two in those most of those scenes there. Um, the little language they use Pidgin English as well. I think that's how it's called, Pidgin English as well. So was that another conscious effort to try and make it more genuine to the location of where it's set?
Yeah, 100%. Me and Holden grew up in Kaneohe, which is where the we shot the film,
Mm-hmm.
and so we knew. I mean, we just grew up in a culture that spoke that pidgin English in a
Yeah.
really sort of unvarnished way, I guess, for lack of a better word. But like I find it really beautiful, and I one of my pet peeves is when Pidgin is portrayed in movies inaccurately or
Hmm.
inauthentically, I guess. Um, so yeah, that's very language is very important to me, and representing Pidgin in a way that feels authentic to us was really important as well. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And there's a difference as well, because even through that, there's a generational difference. It comes very much across as well, just like it is a normal, I'll talk to my son, and some of the words he comes out with, and he'll something called, he'll say it's sick. For me, sick means like, but obviously it's all changed. But obviously with the Pidgin, the difference and the background of the older guy. Now, I'm trying not to spoil it for anyone who's going to, obviously the background from him, he's missed out on a lot of stuff anyway, probably from where he's been, and you can see that generational gap of the kids. The words that he uses. Is it rubber? Was one of them. Is that one? I was trying to
Yeah,
pick it out.
no,
Yeah.
good job. You really internalized the film, so that's cool.
What does that mean? I couldn't. I can't.
Oh, it yeah. Oh, his name is Austin Tucker, and that was
Hmm.
his first time acting, and he did an
Wow.
incredible job. And
Hmm.
but yeah, I asked him basically like, oh, what's a word that you know you would use nowadays for basically like bad, or this thing is terrible. And he's like, oh yeah, rubber. Okay. I never heard that as well, so
Yeah.
we incorporated that.
Pretty cool. And yeah, again, so it's really great to see that, that's what the film. It's only 8 minutes long, but there's so much story is told in 8 minutes. It's quite unbelievable, um, to get that through. So, for people who are watching and listening to this interview and now, what can you tell me? What's the message that you want to people to take away from the film from watching it?
Wow, that's a it's
Deep
weird because
question.
I've done a lot of interviews, but I feel like I've never been asked that question. uh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I just hope that people come away with a better understanding of, some of the socioeconomic realities that a lot of Native Hawaiians face in
Hmm.
Hawaii, and um, it's it's beautiful. We're really grateful to live here, and we're really grateful to be Hawaiian. But there's so many things that we deal with on the day to day that makes it really hard, I think, to enjoy a lot of the beauty that Hawaii has to offer. So,
Hmm.
I mean, ultimately, like, we're dealing with things that m- many other people are dealing with around the world, and so I hope to humanize us, or not, well, not us so much as like maybe trying to generate empathy for sort of the post-carceral uh, life, and the difficulties therein, and yeah.
Fair enough. And that's a good answer. It's definitely very much, as well. I saw in a review. It's not mine. I'm gonna take it from a review that I did see. Some I can't claim credit for it, and it's very much a breathing community fighting hard to keep its own identity in the modern world as well.
Mhm.
Which is, and yeah, and so that's where we go back to the Wales things. I can very much see, that kind of, you're really pushing that across, and within an 8 minute story, as I say, I say I watched it for 8 minutes, and I've watched it, rewatched it again, because obviously I want to make sure I wanted to make sure I knew it, but it does affect you, and the whole way through you go in, you're thinking that you're left wondering, because you're very, very clever in the way you've let the what viewer guess all the way through the film what this relationship is. I kind of was thinking possible. Again, this is probably a spoiler, so spoil everyone says like a spoiler. But obviously, left guessing the whole way through until the very end, and then there's that one line, isn't there? And it's like, he's my boy too, and it's like, really, are they? And it's you don't know, you haven't found that out all the way through, because the relationship and the way they're talking is so, it's, there's a reason obviously for why it is, but it's very stagnated, and it's alien, because both of them are struggling to identify with themselves as well as with each other, and definitely desperation in trying to make sure and come across and reach, and that's kind of where you're left for the full 8 minutes. You're like, you're pushing and pushing, because you can see how hard it is for the father to actually to try and approach a son who's obviously never really known. So
Yeah, I, I, you've really internalized the film, and that's cool. You're dead on. Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, so yeah, so not much to say for that one. But yeah, so it's right. So it's cool. And as I say, I mean, the actors themselves, it was especially the other one, the first time ever.
Yeah.
So to actually be able to come across and put that kind of emotion, that kind of depth into it, and the fact you've told me it was all done within 7 hours, and that you didn't really rehearse before, just shows how good they are and how good they will. Obviously the young lad, I can't forgotten his name now.
Austin.
Yeah, Austin. Yeah, because how well he'll do in the future as well. Because if he can do that now, and pick that up straight away, that's how it can
I
build on.
I agree. And yeah, part of the reason why I casted him is because I had seen him audition for a friend's film, and he didn't get that role. But again, I really liked his elocution, and he felt, he brought in a verisimilitude, I think, to the role and to the language. And um, he's just a great kid, and his I couldn't have asked for a better set mom as well. She just was
Mm.
hanging out and was very encouraging and happy to be a part of the process. So yeah, I'm just thrilled with their performances.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I think I mentioned it earlier on as well, is because obviously you are you are award winning, not just with this one, but with previous ones as well. And this one won the Imaginative Film Festival, if I'm right, last year. Best live action short, which I can see why. But that that qualifies you now for the Academy Awards, to be considered for the Academy Awards next year, which is that must be a good feeling as well.
it's it's crazy. There were so many amazing indigenous films at Imaginative from around the world, and yeah, I really still can't believe it. Um, but yeah, it's the whole thing has been just a surreal experience, and I'm honored to sort of represent Imaginative,
Hmm.
and we'll see what happens.
Fantastic. Well, it'd be really good to see, obviously, to see it go far. I'm not being sycophantic here either. I'm just saying it would be nice to see that go far, because it's nice to always see such passion behind. I say very much so. You can tell just talking to you in the last 20 minutes or so, the passion you have for your culture of Hawaii. And I'm going to pronounce this. I'm going to pronounce Hawaii rightly, because I always say Hawaii and it's not, because I've been listening to how you pronounce it. Hawaii, is that right?
It is, yeah,
Oh, there you
great.
go. See, I've learned something new as well. My mum mispronounced it so long, and it's great to see that. So it would be nice to see that pushed forward as well, and see more of that, because uh, as great as TV shows, American TV shows and films are, because they are still Americanized. It's there's not much on the actual on the true culture of places, and I love I love documentary type things as well, but I love seeing a film which draws on the strength of a community and draws on the strength of a country, or even a region, because like you said, some of the language of the Pidgin was, I think, specific to the region, very much so, of where you grew up, rather than, because I mean, in other parts of Hawaii, I'm presuming it might not be as understood, because it's just, it's like, regional
Yeah,
dialect type.
you're you're totally right. Each region has their own sort of variation of Pidgin. I would say, and each island does as well. So yeah, I mean, again, just I feel like Hawaii is such a rich tapestry of people and stories just waiting to be told, and I feel just really grateful to be able to tell some of those stories, and there it's a really exciting time just for Hawaiian film in general, because there's a lot of up and coming Native Hawaiian filmmakers that are doing really interesting things, and um, uh, it's going to be an interesting sort of decade. I think we'll start to see a lot more stories, I think, from here uh, permeate the larger mediascape. So I'm excited.
Fantastic. I was going to do a quick anecdote, which I'll take out, by the way. When you're talking about the dialects, 'cause I did German at university, I studied German, and we all went to live in Germany. Or me, there's like the 12 of us in the class, and we lived around, but we all lived in different parts of Germany, because that's why I love language. I love dialect, and probably why I picked this out as well is because I can trying to the regional side of it, because we all came back after a year and we'd all be lived in different parts of Germany, and we had a class where we just had to speak to each other in German, and we all just sat there and was like, what? No one could understand what the other ones were saying, because we'd all picked up the regional dialects, which were totally different from everywhere else. They weren't standard German. It was just like you say, like the Pidgin English of Hawaii, in the different regions within. It's very interesting to see that even one country or one area of one country, you can still have so many different variations of the language. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just my anecdote, which made me.
I mean, yeah, I agree. And language is a living, breathing thing, and it's constantly evolving. And it's in some places it's more, archaic than other places, and
Hmm.
and even that process, the way that it transforms or remains the same, is fascinating. And there's so many factors that go into that. So language is just so indicative of all of these elements, and it's just one of the reasons why I really love it and want to see it portrayed in the way that I know it and love it.
Excellent, excellent. And before I stop recording, Alika, is there anything you'd like to say for people who are watching or
I would
listening
just
on the phone?
say, as I mentioned, this film was really born out of this sort of challenge that was put to me by my cinematographer. But I mean, for me, I realized that it actually became quite helpful to try to construct the film within these constraints that I had, which was like, okay, we have to do this in a week, so it really has to be probably only one location, because that's just the only, you only have the amount of time for that, and you probably want as little actors as possible, and you want to you make it as sort of simplified as you can, but then build it back up and build layers and stuff like that. So um and I think, like, for me, that was something I was really I really relish that, because it can be, I think, quite intimidating to sit down and tell a story about anything with any with the amount of resources that you could have. So I yeah, this it was just a lesson in sort of uh trying to work within the confines of something, and it's been a helpful experience for me, and one that I look to implement in future projects, and it helps to keep things focused. So uh yeah, I would just say, like, in general, as a filmmaker, and you're not limited, you can use constraints that would be otherwise limiting to your advantage. So, yeah.